shelf life. All right, so I went ahead and clicked start recording. So again, today what we're going to talk about is shelf life testing, and I want to show 2 ways that you can go about setting up your shelf life testing in RedJade, right? And there's a couple of different ways that you can think about it. Okay, so the first way that I'm going to show you is really to do an on-site central location test where people are coming down to your facility and answering questions, right? Answering questions about each product. Now, you'll see a couple of things here. I have gone ahead and created all of my samples ahead of time, right? So I'm going to just click the quick add button so that we can hop in and look at those samples and see what they look like. So in this case, I have 2 different types of products, right? I have a product that was stored ideally, right? And I have a product that went through the distribution channel, right? So, and I called those ideal and distribution. Again, this report name is what's going to show up in any tables I export, any data tables that I make, etc., right through the application, right? Then I went ahead and I added the time period for these evaluations. So for example, here I have ideal at 1 week, ideal at 1 month, ideal at 3 months, so on and so forth. Now you'll see these 2 extra things for each product. You'll see I have this additional 1 as product 7 for ideal and additional 2 as product 8 for ideal. You'll see the same, I have the same thing for distribution, additional 1, additional 2. Now, the reason that I do that, let me let my screen refresh, is that if I am doing this acceptance test type, right? So this central location test type, bringing people into a central location, having them take the test on on-site computers that you have available, I need to plan ahead. The design block in RedJade is uneditable or immutable once you have evaluated a design line. So what I mean by that is once person 1001 starts day 1, their design line can no longer be changed, right? And so what I'm doing here by adding those 2 additional days, right? You'll see I have them blocked in day 7 and day 8, is I am making it so that I think that my shelf life is 6 months. This allows me to go out to 7 months or 8 months, 2 additional times that you can evaluate the products, right? So that's what I've done here. Now, when I show you the other way of setting up a shelf life test, you'll see that this doesn't matter near as much. Okay, and I'll show you that in a second as well. So let's just kind of walk through how this test is set up. So in location, I've done this on site at a location. So this is again going to be on computers that I have control over. I'm doing self check-in, which will allow the individual to sit down and enter either their email address or a code that has been assigned to that individual, right? And I'm going to auto assign the next design block row to the person. The participant step here doesn't matter too much. It's just telling you how many design block rows you want. The schedule, right, will control when the people come in. So again, in design block, it's not really about day 1, day 2. That is a login, log out session. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and let's say this is our 1 week evaluation here, right? So we can put our 1 week evaluation today. Let me go ahead and click submit, right? And then I can also, right, if I wanted to, I can also create all of my test days. So I can again go in and I can click repeat and I can say, I'm just going to put in a daily repeat and I'm going to end this after 4 occurrences, right? I'll kind of show you what I mean here. So let's put this daily, end after 4, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and go ahead and click submit. Now you'll see this would look like I'm going to evaluate the products each day. However, I can easily go in and drag these dates to whenever I want to on my shelf life, right? So I can drag things around quickly and easily and put these where I want. So instead, I can say, well, my next evaluation is May 7th. My one after that is going to be June 5th. And so you can drag and drop those to day after day. And I'll show you what that means for design block. Now in our design block, we call these day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, so on and so forth. But really all that is a login, log out session. What I mean by that is that the individual sits down at their computer, at the computer that you have set up as a station. They're going to enter their login information, so either their email or username in RedJade, not username, code in RedJade, and they're going to start with this day 1 evaluation, right? Now, day 1 just means the first session that they log in. When they come back in a month to evaluate their 1-month evaluations, they will automatically start this day 2. Again, it's a login, log out session. This doesn't mean that this has to be the 6th, this the 7th, this the 8th, etc. These dates can be whenever you schedule them. Okay, so that's one way to set up the session. Now, really quickly, I want to show you how we do this design block. Right, so this design block, you'll see I have the days spread out here in the boxes in each session. And you'll see what I did here. So first I added days. So when you first go into RedJade, when I first hit the design block, I would have had 1 day, and I would have had all 16 of my products sitting in that 1 day. RedJade would have built a sequential monadic balance block design for 16 products. So in this case, what I do is I click this day assignment button and I change it from automatic to manual. And that allows me to drag products to specific days in the design. And you'll see here, so I have my 1-week designs on day 1, my 1-month design products on day 2, my 3-month products on day 3, so on and so forth. And that allows me to group my products by day down here. Okay, so that's how you would set up this test. So that is a central location test on site using self check-in. So that's one way of setting up a shelf life test. I want to show you another way of setting up a shelf life test that I was talking about the other day with a client and trying to overcome some things that they were talking about. And I think that this way of setting up a shelf life test is actually simpler for the vast majority of people. Okay, so let's go ahead and walk through and see what this looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and click edit, and I'm going to walk through my test here real quick. Right, so in this case though, I'm going to do an online anonymous link test and set my design here. Right now, you have 2 options, and I'll show you those 2 options in a minute for setting up this test. We click next. We set up our number of participants. Now, in this case, you would just want to create a ton of design lines, probably a couple of thousand. I don't want you guys to have to sit and wait with a screen share while RedJade sets up 2,000 design lines. It takes about 10 seconds. So I'm just going to do 100 so it's quick. We schedule when we want this test to be active. So you can see right now we did our initial evaluations on 3/6, right? Now I'm going to set up my next evaluation, and it's going to be for today, which is April 7th, right? So I'm going to make this test active only today. So we'll go from April 7th to April 8th. That'll make the test open the entire day. We have our same questionnaire. We tie our samples to this questionnaire here. Now you'll see in this case, I don't need to tie the additional samples to this question. I know I'm going through at least 6 months. I don't need to tie the additional samples, and I'll show you how we can add those at any point in time here. We click next. Now, the anonymous link style of test automatically hands out the next design block row available, right? So you can see here, I just really quickly evaluated 1 person on 3/6 worth of data. Right, and you'll see I only have my 1-week products here. What I'm going to do, let's say it's now time, it's my 1-month evaluation. So I click edit. I can drag my 1-week samples out of my design block, and all I have to do is drag in my 1-month evaluation products, right? And what RedJade's going to do is RedJade is going to rebuild my design block with only those 2 samples, right? But what it's going to do is you'll see that row 1 or row 1001 will automatically have the old samples available there, right? Let me click refresh. Sometimes when the screen share is on, things run a little slower than usual. All right, so there's my design, right? So I have my design here. And you'll see row 1001 is blocked, but the next person that logs in will automatically get the 1 month designs, right? And you can do that for 3 months, 6 months, etc. So that's why you can easily add products later. So let me show you what happens if you want to add additional days, right? So we would go to our dashboard. We would let's just say this additional one we now want to do. We now want to do a 7-month evaluation, right? So all I would need to do is I would go into my survey. I would click this little black button on the right, the little down arrow. I would click Edit Servings. I'm going to add the additional one of each sample to my servings and click Submit. I'm going to slide over to my design block. I'm going to click Edit, and you'll see now what's going to happen is you'll see my additional one for distribution and my additional one for ideal show up. And when it comes time to evaluate that 7-month evaluation, I can just drag it up into my design and it will recreate my design. Okay. You have a little more control this way. The control that you're losing is the ability for people to self-check in. And you're also losing the ability to know who filled out each questionnaire. Now, you could easily ask a question, fill in your first name and last name, and then a text question if you wanted to as well. So there are some things that you can do to get some of that control back. Now, the last thing I wanted to show you here is you can go in this case, and you can add a new event. So you could always create a separate link for the 1 week evaluation, the 1 month evaluation, the 2 month evaluation, etc. That becomes more about how you would like to control your own product. In that case, I would recommend on the scheduling step that you would name each event to make your life easy. So maybe you call this the 1 month event, right? And you would have a different URL for each time point, and you would have a different design block for each time point. Every single event can have a different design block. Okay, so there are really 2 ways to handle this type of shelf life setup. So if we were to quickly go in and just complete this survey URL, let me do an incognito window here. I don't want to delete my cookie on my computer. So I would go to surveys.redjade.net/RJD/shelf life, which is my personal link for my company, my RedJade demo company. Again, I choose to have a study participant agreement. And now I can go ahead and click through my 2 samples. So let's just go ahead and do that. I'm just asking overall opinion. You can, of course, ask whatever questions pertain to your product. It might be line scales. It might be liking. It might be jar scales. Whatever kind of questions you want, you can have on your questionnaires. I like to keep things super simple for my own sanity when I'm doing these demonstrations. Now, the last thing here is I'm going to view the live results. So I'm just going to open this in a new tab. So I right-clicked on View Live Results, and I'm opening the link in a new tab. It's going to automatically search for my project number here. And now you'll see that I have my results, right? So here's my anonymous results. And now you can see I have my 1 month and my 1 week all in a row here, right? Now what I can do to look at different things is, let's say I want to look at ideal only. I can go into my samples and I can say, for example, I want to exclude my distribution at 1 week and my distribution at 1 month. I go back into my data, and now I'm just going to look at ideal 1 week versus 1 month. So you can easily change by clicking on samples what results you'd like to look at. With that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stop the recording.